feather, light, work, asking, answer, accepting, honoring, all we are, earth to star. We're stepping into the spring season, and we're seeing flowers, wildflowers, and bees and butterflies, and a lot that we see in the natural surroundings is just as harmonious and vibrant and thriving as ever, and still there is something dark and gloomy and heavy in our collective consciousness. We see it all over the media, as always, but we also see it in our peer group, in our friend group, in our various social circles. We see people struggling financially. We see people struggling relationally. We see disharmony, dissonance between people, even people who love and respect each other. We feel it ourselves. We run into, argumentative situations, and gosh, the times are really wild right now. It's a funny thing that's happening. I feel it on a big scale. We're empaths. We can put ourselves into anyone's moccasins and relate with them, feel what they are feeling.
We're approaching a colossal occurrence in our cosmos. We're approaching a massive solar eclipse. It's a full solar eclipse. It's been a really, really long time since it's happened last. And it's going to be a really, really long, multiple lifetimes before it happens again. So for any of us who are following astrology, usually at a point like this in history, a lot of astrologers are saying it literally changes everything. And that means something very different for all of us. From my personal perspective, as Cabe's talking about, as far as how does that show up for us, I really feel it brings a lot of shadow to the surface, and more than usual. And we're noticing it in the microcosms within our small community. We're noticing it and have been noticing it leading up to this point for quite some time now. And so taking the optimistic viewpoint on what's happening, we do see the benefit in this, bringing things up to be cleared, bringing things up to be transmuted, bringing things up to release them. Oftentimes we spend so much time taking care of ourselves and working on ourselves, and then we hit these patches of dissonance, or these rough patches, and it'll throw us back, and we'll feel like we're doing something wrong, or we're not in alignment. And oftentimes it's a matter of something like leaving the system. It's a matter of completion. We started to talk about the topic around completion. So we're kind of going into a phase that is, we consider this the energy of the portal of this cosmic colossal event. And so we're feeling this, as Cabe just said, we're empathic. So which that means is that our clairsentience is fully activated, not only for what's happening in our atmosphere and our literal, activity within the stars, but what's happening to all of our peers and all of their bodies. And this is something that we can see externally, and we can something that we can feel the dissonance literally in our nervous systems. So even though we believe and we hope that this is a purging of stuff that no longer serves, and I personally would like to hold on to that this is really all for the best long term, but we can't ignore or turn our heads to the fact that it's really hard.
So because of the magnitude of this event in the cosmos, this shaking happening in our world that we can feel, this opportunity to rise, this new season, this end of an ancient cycle, and the potential new beginning, the new dawn, the new paradigm, I'm calling for all the prayer warriors, all the artists, all the song carriers to stand up and be the change we wish to see in the world. Because we can all carry a big dark cloud over our head and spread that message of doom and gloom and woe is me type of attitude, or we can use our willpower and bring our heads and our hearts together and make a stand. Make a stand, be together, stand together for the kids, be strong, stand in our strength, find our firm footing, hold each other's hand, help each other with the heavy lifting, be the community that we have always had the propensity to be, be the community members individually that we can be.
I think Kib makes a really good point about the kids, because they don't know what's happening. They might be feeling so much more stress, like so much more discord, like little things that they might be able to roll with a lot easier. Like they're not able to roll with, like they're having challenges in this way. It's bringing up a lot of emotion. And, they may be aware and they may not be aware. They may be more prone to temper tantrums. They may be more prone to getting into moods. And, us as their conscious, aware parents, we can just hold space for them. It's hard to explain to a kid that we're going through a massive shift energetically. And maybe it's not that hard, but I just think that we're all experiencing this. And so if we can have grace with each other, if we can use our tools and come together, like Cabe's saying, but if we can have this level of grace with each other in our situations, I think we can flow through it. Today I was in prayer and I was communicating with some of the beings that are used to this constant, like wavy, like moving, the ebbs and flows. I was like experiencing it in like waves of emotions. And like, so I was plugging in and channeling and working with like the creatures of the sky and the creatures of the sea that are used to like these big waves of turbulence, even the star beings that are used to these big cosmic movements. It's hard to ground when you feel like things are coming from every angle. Like, where do you ground if everything is coming from every angle?
I imagine some of us have contracted to be here in this earth walk. We made a soul contract. We made an agreement with the powers that be that we would stand for this place at this time. We're here for a reason. We each have a great path of excellence and a call to action, to stand for something, to be brave, to, offer our best to the world who needs us right now.
Yeah.
And most importantly, to ourselves.
Yeah.
To really show up for ourselves through self-care, self-respect, self-love. As much now than ever before, it's important that we find our way now. Yeah. And I look outside of me to the nature, like you're saying, and I feel the earth shaking to some degree. There's wobbles happening, big ripples of fear happening, and there are waves of it, and there are flames of it, and furious anger of it, and winds sweeping through. There's all those signs that I see in nature, and I want to remember the other angle of those natural events too. Like the wind brings its peace too. There's a pacifying effect of the wind. The fire, even though it can be heavy with those big rowdy flames, the fire also is a love. It's an unconditional love. Yeah. It's a passion. And the waves, they come with their turbulence and their shakiness, but they also have their grace about them. Mm-hmm. And the earth too has its truth, has its gift of the firm foundation and the reliable embrace and holding that it offers us from below us, and it takes care of us. It nourishes us too. It gives us gifts to help us feel good. So I'm looking around me, and I'm looking in the big scale, and I'm seeing that nature has its way. Nature has its way of self-regulating, taking good care of itself, standing in its grace, peace, love, and truth. And it's time for us to find that inside ourselves, because the only thing that's off balance is the ego trip. The collective consciousness is what's in check now. the collective consciousness that has all its beliefs, all its programming, all of its good old-fashioned ways, that's being changed. That's being checked. So we need to release these ego traps that are holding us back and prepare for whatever's next. I don't know exactly what's next, but I know it begins with standing in our peace, love, grace, and truth. That's how I see it. And I can also identify 3 distinct qualities of, virtues that I myself am gonna move into as I choose to be the change that I wish to see. Before I share these 3, I'd love for you to, just riff on that. What can you share about, things that we're seeing in our peer group, in the neighborhood, in the world on the massive scale right now at this time?
Well, I mean, I've had access to more fear. Like today's been really fear, and I've been noticing all of this in my nervous system. So the systems that are being most effective for me personally is my emotional body, which is then affecting like my nervous system. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I've been taking myself a little bit too seriously. Like I have a wealth of knowledge as to what's happening. Like my cognitive mind is aware of what's happening, and I've still allowed my emotional body to be swept away and to be in a space that is, I mean, it's not good or bad. It's just not fully serving, especially when I cognitively know what's going on. So being able to maybe not take myself so seriously, maybe a little bit more self-care. Maybe I don't need to be in public as much. Maybe I don't. I mean, that's not really an option for me. I have in-person clients this week, but just maybe some more music. I think overall, in general, like, it's one thing for me to experience it and be like, okay, I'm really going through it. And it's another thing for me to like really experience it and know that I'm going through it and still use my tools like that. Like, I feel like today was a day I kind of like surrendered to it, and it's going to continue to get more intense. So that didn't really serve me today. Like, I'm hoping that by being in it, I was able to like process some of it and make some more space as things come up to be healed. But I think a really good key, golden nugget is like just not to take myself so seriously in these moments and to really just, lean into the self-care. Like, you're totally fine. This is totally serving you in the higher way, and just whatever that means, either, some relaxing music, maybe time alone. But I feel like it was the experience of what I was feeling emotionally was like taking me out, and it was taking me out from a nervous system and a physical perspective. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's fine too, but it definitely wasn't enjoyable. So I definitely feel like there's room for improvement in the way of like, let's try something different. Like, I sat in it today and I called it out today, and I didn't really shift. I don't know that I shifted. Maybe I shifted a little bit towards the end of the day after some real big like explosions. I was able to like ground in and actually wound up being pretty productive. So I guess that could be part of it. We could allow ourselves to explode. But basically what I'm seeing is just a lot of stress, a lot of fear. Like, even, there's a lot of focus on our financials, and then we go into fear and lack. And all of us know that that's not really going to, it's good to be real with that and to be present with that, but by staying in that, it just spazzes us out. So if you're feeling stuff like that, throw on some Debbie Gibson and dance it out in the kitchen. We know we came here for a reason. We knew this was going to happen. We knew this shift was coming. It's still coming. Maybe approaching this situation and the dis-ease we might potentially be experiencing, and just shifting it to gratitude. Like, thank you for allowing me to experience this as it exits my field, as it exits my reality, as it exits my body, and just know that, instead of like, oh my gosh, and like anchoring into like the travesty of the experience in that way. And I don't know that everybody's experiencing it, but like, dang, today was low for me. Just was.
Yeah, I think we're talking about caring for the world, caring for the universe. And actually that begins with caring for ourselves.
Yeah.
So my question is, what are the self-care tools that you have available? I'm asking myself, what are my self-care tools? What brings me that peace, love, grace, and truth that helps me feel free, helps me feel comfortable, helps me feel cared for? And then when I fill up my own love cup that way, when I take care of myself that way, then I have reserves, I have resources available to share. And you also mentioned music and singing. And in our little stretch of the world here in Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world, we happen to have a lot of really nourishing social circles surrounding music to help us feel good and help us feel connected and to express ourselves too. We have a full moon jam by the fire at my brother's house, and we host an open mic event every other week. And we're also preparing to hold an official talking stick ritual because we really feel the benefit of deep listening, generous listening, and also heartfelt sharing. And so we want to prioritize community and community building and community space holding at this time because we are needed, we're necessary, we're vital members of our community, and so are you. So we could just as easily stay home and take good care of ourselves, but part of taking care of others also satisfies us, also nurtures us, also lights us up. So that helps us to fill up our love cup too. Giving, receiving the gifts of our own giving, that charity work of showing up for other people, that really helps me to feel good about my life, good about my, gifts that I have to offer. I feel blessed, so blessed to be able to hold space for other people and also to receive the gifts of that space holding and recognizing that every single person is a mirror reflecting who we are in all these different lenses, all the different facets of who we are. I find that I can relate with every single person, the bum on the street. I'm only one poor decision away from being homeless myself at certain stages of my life. And, not to put myself in a negative program right there by believing that's possible for myself, but really there's no difference between me and that bee right there, that wildflower right there, that wolf right there, that fox right there, that horse. I feel like everywhere I look, I see me. I see little glimpses of myself. Even when I look at the elements, the wind, the water, the fire, the earth, I see that peace, I see that grace, I see that unconditional love, and I see that truth. Exactly who I want to be in the world.
So I do want to say, in regards to taking care of others, I think that the best way to do this in these intensity of this moment is really kind of slow it down. Slow yourself down in the morning when you're gathering, when you're getting yourself ready for the day. Allow that space and that time for the check-in to really check in, really what are you experiencing? Really, how are you feeling? And make sure that you're doing good and that you're taking good care of yourself. And if you're feeling really dysregulated and you're feeling really off, give yourself the space of taking care of yourself first. Give yourself the gift of taking care of yourself first. And you might have to go through a day or two where you're just kind of keeping to yourselves in this intense energies. So when you do finally come to that point where you have extra to give, it can go a lot farther and you won't deplete yourself. If we're giving too much and we're standing in that place of wanting to support too much, it can really diminish us in a way too. I'm always, and Cabe too. Cabe would give everything, and he takes care of himself really, really good. And that's one of the things I really admire about him. But this now is an extra special time, and just like you said, it's a mirror. So wanting to take care of others is really, really beautiful and really, really important. And just to give yourself those extra 2 seconds to slow down and make sure that is really in alignment in that moment.
Yeah, for me personally, my number one self-care move that I do every single day to start the day is sit in silence.
Yeah.
Close my eyes. I usually find a place by the window where I can hear the wind chimes. I can see the sun as it begins to rise and show up on the plants. I bless myself up with that quiet time. I meditate. I hold space for peace and quiet. And that calibrates me, just like the sleep does, to be in that home place where I have everything taken care of. I'm safe. I'm lit up. When I start there, I fill up my love cup. I start with being resourced, charging my batteries, energizing myself so I have the good tools to get through the day. It's because I value that early morning stillness that I feel like I have a higher capacity to handle more throughout the day.
Yeah, I also want to bring to attention is that with this extra energy in our atmosphere, it can have effect on technology too. So especially if you're working from home, you work on a computer, if things are kind of freaking on you, just irregular stuff is happening, my advice is to just step away for a second, maybe do some breath work, maybe take a couple of moments in silence, go for a walk outside. Ground water is amazing right now, taking a bath or a shower, using some good tools and then going back to it later, because you can really, really get to a point of like serious frustration if you're getting like resistance from what you're doing or weird things are happening and you try to like push through. Sometimes it's just like 3 or 4 minutes for your own like sake of sanity,
Yeah, for my fellow computer people out there, I really feel every single hour we need to be stepping away from the computer and adjusting our eyesight, looking in the very distance, looking in the vast distance of the horizon, seeing those trees in the far distance, also looking up, looking down, adjusting our viewpoint, because we can be transfixed by this hand that's in front of our face like a big glaring stressor. And it's only through self-care that we put that hand in its right place, that stressor way out there among all the other potentials for the potential dwelling places that we could have on our minds at any moment.
Yeah, and this energy is a really good space. This is Mercury retrograde on steroids, you guys. It's like pretty intense. Kim tried to open a sound file earlier and it was like corrupt, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. This is the reality that we're in right now, we're just trying to express ourselves and as honestly and as transparently as possible. So we don't think we're all going crazy, really, truly, because it's just really kind of weird. It's weird, but it's interesting. Did you guys know, do we know the definition of weird? Definition of weird is an uncanny-like occurrence with some connection to the divine.
And similarly, the definition of insanity is one who makes the same mistake over and over again. Yeah. And so if we're talking about craziness, we're really talking about those people stuck in the ego trap of control, thinking things need to be their way, and the inflexibility that comes with arrogance and stubbornness. Now's the time to be gentle and flexible and fluid. That's why I'm calling it so much attention to the elements, because that's the way there. I don't see rigidity in these elements. Mm-hmm. Sure, each one has its rigidity to a certain extent. The earth has its firm grounding, and we want that. We want that firmness. We want that firm foundation. But it also moves. It also flexes. It also makes space for roots to go in and dig deep, right?
It's a rock spinning in our atmosphere. So it's like it's got its own qualities of being stable while in motion, because that's kind of what it feels like for me. It feels like I'm in motion this morning in my own quiet place, in my own meditation, and I was doing a little business, I was doing a little work, and I just kept feeling like just these waves, and I just had to plug in. I was channeling and connecting to the Butterfly Collective because I just didn't feel comfortable. I had to reground. And the other thing too is vitamin mineral support right now. It might be sounding rather cliche, but we're probably a little bit depleted. Some people are discussing that their muscles are sore, checking in, maybe loading up on some magnesium. We had 2 doses of cacao this morning. Our shake has cacao, and then Kate made us some cacao. That's really high source of magnesium, like if you're feeling it in your body like that. And I think that's a big part of this. Some of my peers are talking about how this is like a cellular upheaval, like a cellular release, and then a DNA activation is what's happening. And if you think about like the sun as like an activation, a source, like, I mean, we think of it as source or source energy, and it's what's penetrating our field in a new way at a new level of intensity to activate some really sophisticated DNA, really. And so we may feel that. Some of us may not feel that at all. If you're not feeling it, that's not a bad thing. There's nothing like wrong with the situation, but just a lot of weird things that, maybe not a lot of people are talking about this. I know there's tons of astrologers talking about this. Everybody's sharing their perspective. And we're just kind of sharing what we lived through today, which seems like a whole week of things in one day.
In the beginning, I mentioned these 3 specific virtues that I would love for us to focus on. And I invite each of us to, check in about what we're calling in for ourselves individually. We each might have a path of our own, a virtue of our own, a focal point of our own, something in ourselves, a passion point that might help guide and guard us as we take mighty leaps forward right now. I invite us all to check in about the changes we wish to see in the world and start to embody them. Begin to take our baby steps and our giant leaps in the direction of our choosing for ourselves, for the next generation, for 7 generations down in the past, 7 generations into the future. We'll make love drops and love ripples that touch everyone that way. And we'll be okay. We're going to get through this. This is going to be okay. We're in good hands because we're in our own hands. We're going to take care of ourselves that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that, like, for me personally, what I'd really like to do is like call on some more courage. I have this issue with like breaking rules or like being in the wrong. Like I really feel very uncomfortable if I'm in any kind of risk of like breaking a rule or breaking the law or getting in trouble. And like I really, to the point where it's like unbalanced because I'm not doing any of those things, but just the fear of being accused of that, the fear of being persecuted unjustly for that. Like those things are very alive for me right now in these moments, and it goes away, and I clear it and I work through it, but then it comes up. So it's like undeniable that it's coming through past lifetimes, alternate timelines, stuff like that. These are things that I've experienced in other realities. So, and I'm grateful. I think that's the key, is to really anchoring in. Like if I didn't have this awareness, I didn't have this coming through for me to say, hey, there's more to clear on that. I need to really let go of that, and like Kate said, like we're in good hands because we're in our own hands. I'm not going to make any harsh calls. I'm not going to make mistakes like that. Like I'm not going to put myself into those situations. So it's just calling on courage and like not to be rattled by that and to be able to like stand in my power. I think ultimately that's what it is. It's a fear of repression. It's a fear of like having my power, stripped and being repressed by situations and institutions out of my control, which is, like, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate with that.
Yeah, honestly, my kids, I hate the idea of them thinking they're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
Last thing I want is my kids to be in trouble. I want them to be empowered. I want them to be encouraged. I want them to be bold and trusting of the universe. And I want them to be, peaceful and loving and all the things that I want from myself. I want my kids to have those virtues too. So I don't want them to fear authority. I don't want them to be afraid of the law enforcement. I want them to, find favor in the school system. I want them to look around and see benevolent forces who care about us.
Yeah.
And I have to model that for them. I have to be the one that says, I see this teacher showing up for you. She really cares about you. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, I do see that. Remember, your grandpa Terry, he was an art teacher. He cared about kids. So I trust they're good-natured teachers in your school system. Can we seek them out and develop a relationship with them and cultivate a good teacher-student connection between them. And, with the law enforcement, I remember these violent rap songs when I was growing up that was persuading me that cops were bad and they had ill intentions and stuff like that. And now I'm living in this place. Every police officer I meet is such a gentleman and a nice person and really cares and, just really looking out for my best interest. And I'm trusting. I'm finding, peace and love in my surroundings because that's where I'm focusing. Everywhere I look, I see what I want to see.
Exactly.
Especially in myself. I want to see these virtues in myself. So I'm beginning here and I'm extending that to there. Then I honor them and I respect them. I respect the people around me. I respect my surroundings just like I respect the land, the air, the water, the fire.
And Kate makes a really good point. We're going to experience a reality that we're looking for. And if, a lot of us have been in situations where, that we've been in challenging situations. And so I think we have the power, it's within us to be able to say, okay, so we may have had situations, we send that love and we send that appreciation and that happened for us and not to us. And I want to choose something different. And I want to choose to attract all sorts of really lovely people of all over the world. And all over our community. And I do see that in certain parts of my life, like growing up as a kid, challenged with many different classified, I'm going to say differences, but the reality it was that it was looked at as a disability. I had a lot of dissonance between a lot of psychologists, social workers and stuff like that. And now I have so many friends that are the most amazing licensed therapists and social workers. And, it's really enriched the body of my work, being able to work with from a spiritual component through the lens of depth psychology. And it's really enriched my life to these massive levels of camaraderie and partnership within these communities, and that can happen in every aspect of our world, of our reality.
Yeah, because I trust that I can and we can be the change we wish to see in the world. And we need to be the change we want to see in the world. I'm calling you. I'm calling the healers. I'm calling the teachers, the mentors, the artists, the change makers, the freedom seekers, the dream catchers, the hopers, the prayer warriors. I'm calling us all to bring our heads and hearts together now.
Yeah.
To bring our hands together too. And, these are these 3 virtues that I want for us to focus on. I invite us all to focus on these 3 virtues and all the other virtues we see too. But I see these 3. The creative fire, that fire of creativity, that fire that brings newness into life, that energizes everything, that propels our ideas into action. I'm calling on that virtue in us. In ancient Hebrew mysticism, the Kabbalah, we call that Behuya. Behuya is given as a name of God in some circles, but it's also a guardian angel name, and it's also a virtue that we can hold on to, we can grasp, we can invoke it even. Behuya, Behuya, Behuya. Let ourselves be empowered and encouraged and inspired by that name Behuya and its meaning, creative fire. Especially those of us who have a creative spark in us. The artists, maybe it's our time to shine as an artist finally. That's new for me. Maybe it's time for us song carriers to burst forward with something new to share, a song to rally us together.
And it's a really great way to channel a lot of this intense energy, the creative fire, the energy of fire, this intensity. These are some intense emotions. Why not take that juice and use this virtue as a muse to channel into something, serving not only for ourselves, but for our whole community.
The second one of those virtues is warrior of the light. We call this in ancient Hebrew, Yalahaya. Yalahaya, Yalahaya, Yalahaya. Warrior of the light. What does that mean to you? To me, it's like coming with a crystal sword of truth bringing our passionate, unconditional love into life, bearing the light, holding the light for everyone in the darkness to see. That darkness exists for a reason too, honoring the darkness for what it is, not destroying the darkness,
Right.
respecting the darkness, understanding the darkness, acknowledging the darkness, carrying our light, shining the light of wisdom, truth, love. You know, what does warrior of the light mean to you? It's a mystical expression.
And it goes hand in hand with what I was talking about along the lines of courage, like just being courageous and being able to stand in love. Like even when you feel like unprotected or not seen or abandoned or triggered, like just anchoring yourself into that warrior mentality of love. Like warrior can often be looked in a frame of destruction or battle, but really like, when you embody it in this term, this warrior of the light, it's keen senses and being aware of all of our parts and being aware of our ego and being aware of our fears they're just simply fears and they're just simply emotions and being able to transmute that, being able to transform that, being able to bring the light into the darkness. That's what this whole process is. That's what we're doing. We're not shying away from the shadows. We're loving the shadows. And through the love and embrace of the shadows, we transmute them. We bring light into the darkness. So you have to have courage. You have to be able to go to a battle within yourself between wanting to run away and find safety and just being able to be standing in love.
Yeah, so encouragement is the best gift we can give to a warrior, a prayer warrior, a peaceful warrior, a warrior of the light, a soldier of love. We can encourage these people and we can be the voice of encouragement for ourselves to stand strong and be brave. We're talking about a peaceful warrior here. Both the creative fire and the warrior of the light have a distortion to them that could be misinterpreted as a destructive force, but it's really the uselessness that we're defeating. It's the unserving illusion that we're slicing through. We're letting go, we're releasing. That's the only thing we're fighting against is the lie. So that truth can reign supreme.
Yeah.
So that truth becomes illuminated.
Yeah.
And the third virtue I want to focus on is sacred medicine cultivator. So this aspect of our higher self, I'm calling that down now. The sacred medicine cultivator. How can we cultivate the medicine inside of ourselves? Maybe some of us carry medicine songs, and these songs serve us in body, heart, mind, soul, and spirit. Maybe some of us are space holders for other people's healing. Maybe it's listening ears that we can offer for somebody else, and maybe we can offer ourselves that spirit of listening and acknowledging the heaviness we feel so we can heal. When we're talking about medicine cultivation, we're talking about holding space for healing. That begins with intending to heal. That means letting go, releasing dis-ease. So finding the harmony, letting go of disharmony, focusing on the harmony. That's again where I'm calling for an attitude shift. If we focus, if we draw all of our attention onto what's working, then we can draw in what's working. More will work for us. If we're focusing on what's not working, all the devastation, all the damage, then we might be setting ourselves up to experience even more of the destruction, the devastation. Here where we are, we might not be the ones to be the change for the Gaza Strip right at this moment. It might not be our torch to carry. And still we can be aware of it, send our love there, give our respect to all those people over there doing their thing. And we have our own battles happening here. We can focus right here where we are. You know, we don't have to carry the weight of the world. We can actually release that. Please, let's release that. Please, let's focus on how best we can care for ourselves, for those in our near vicinity, for those who are near and dear to our hearts. And as time and space permits, and we have the resources and we have the abundance overflowing through us, then we can ripple out to farther and farther concentric circles, all the way over to the Gaza Strip, all the way over to the planet Mars, all the way over to the depths of the cosmos as far as we want to reach, all the way deep down into the innermost, all the way to the sacred center, bringing our love, peace, truth, and grace right here.
So we talked a little bit about how I was navigating this morning. I was connecting with different elements, different beings, different species that are used to navigating these kind of turbulent times. And as Cabe's always saying, or has been saying, like, be the change. And what's really quite literal is that our bee kingdom has a lot of medicine for this. The bee kingdom has a huge amount of medicine in general. They're really big DNA activators. They're grid workers. We're raising our frequency as a whole grid earthwise. And so these species of bees, all the bee species, are running these grids, these energetic grids, and they're activating DNA through the ley lines of the planet. And there's so many of us humans that are in high resonance of bees and really supporting the bees. And just by observing the bees and the way in which the bee kingdom navigates, we've got different roles, and we have different roles within their kingdom. We have the queen bee, we have the worker bees, and we have the
Drones.
And the drones. And these are three major roles that play through the bee kingdom, and they have really specific roles. But one thing that's really, really special about this and some of the other insects is that they operate through a hive mind. So they're communicating and they're working together in this like synchronistic wave of existence, and they know how to support each other. The drones know when to support the workers and when to support the queen. And they have this like beautiful flow within their community. And the way in which they live, the way in which they be, no pun intended, the way in which they be and how they exist, they carry a vibrational frequency that is really rich medicine to our physical bodies. This is definitely one of the most fascinating light language activations that I have worked with. I feel like that we can all really, really resonate with it. And it's super, super easy to teach and activate you all to be able to do this with yourself. And what I mean by activate is for me to be able to produce it and then you to be able to replicate it. So for you to be able to replicate it, you could probably pick on your own to be able to remember or drop in with a time or space where you heard a bee, and then you should be able to recreate it from that. But I'm going to channel that directly and present it to you all here. And then you'll be able to do this for yourself. You'll be able to nourish yourself, activate your DNA. And most importantly, I'm hearing now it's actually really soothing for the nervous system. And it's really, really soothing for the throat chakra and all of this in this space. And the reason why light language works is we have a really special, smaller chakra that's in the back of our throat, a little bit different than our throat chakra itself. But we actually have this really sacred, it's actually like a doorway or a window to our soul. And it's a gateway directly to our DNA. And by speaking or running sound or running frequency through that gateway in the back of our throat, it helps to heal our body on a cellular level. And so just a little background on light language. Light language is sounds spoken audibly that's not, that's above and beyond the human language. The human language has limitations through the words and vibrations that back up the words. So it has a limiting ability to be able to produce these big shifts, this big medicine that can be transmuted through sound. So there's lots of different species, most animals, insects, mammals, birds, they all have their own light language. A lot of different supportive extraterrestrials have some light language, and the whole elemental kingdom also works through light language. So this is really special, and I highly motivate you, invite you to check this out, your local folks on the internet. Wherever you can find light language, jump in and see how it can serve you. So I'm going to set us up for this channeling real quick. So the basic thing I do is I activate and open my heart portal. I'm grounding into the core of the earth. I'm creating a filter so that when I'm channeling, I'm only channeling higher frequency benevolent forces. And then I'm connecting to source consciousness and the way that I set myself up. And from that space, I'm going to set an intention. You don't necessarily have to set an intention. You can just set an intention to communicate with a certain species or elemental. In this space, my intention is soothing the nervous system and overall stress relief. And then I would also like to intend an activation of the parasympathetic nervous system for us to open, relax, receive, and allow. And so then I'm going to channel the light language, which is going to come through the bee kingdom. We can take a deep breath here and let that come into our body.
Acceptance, honor.
Letting that land, giving that its space to land.
All we are, earth to star.
Holding the space of gratitude for this medicine, for receiving this medicine, for a connection and channel that's always open to this specific kingdom and all the kingdoms. Holding so much gratitude for the support of the bees. Holding so much gratitude for the support of our bodies to be able to receive, allowing the receive, allowing that to come all the way in, all the way down to anchor into a cellular level. Taking one more deep breath. Coming back in, and when you're ready, we can butterfly our eyes open. Coming back into this room, into this space. And so I offer you to rewind this video, re-listen to that, find that space in yourself. And there's no wrong way to do this. There's really not. There's no wrong way to do this. And I offer and invite you to continue to administer yourself, be medicine as you need it, when you need it, how you need it. I do want to just chime in if you are feeling a little bit lightheaded, if you're feeling something intense, there's nothing wrong. It's just your body adjusting to this really high, really nourishing frequency. You're safe, you are loved, you are supported, always and always.